about the foundations of modern Christianity. His most recent book is called James, the Brother of Jesus. Mr. Eisenman is a professor of Middle East religions and archaeology at California State University at Long Beach. He's also written extensively about the Dead Sea Scrolls. He spoke at the Tattered Cover bookstore in Denver, Colorado.
Today we're pleased to have with us Robert Eisenman. Professor Eisenman is a professor of Middle East religions and archaeology and director of the Institute for the Study of Judeo-Christian Origins at the California State University. He's also visiting senior member of Linacre College in Oxford University. His previous writings include the facsimile edition of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls Uncovered, the Dead Sea Scrolls and the First Christians. His most recent book, and the one he'll be mainly addressing today, is James, the Brother of Jesus, the Key to Unlocking the Secrets of Early Christianity and the Dead Sea Scrolls. In this book, we find that James, not Peter, was the true successor to the movement we now call Christianity. Please join me in welcoming Robert Eisenman.
Thank you. James is perhaps one of the most underestimated people in New Testament history. In fact, he usually is confused with another James, James, the brother of John. And that's very important, the brother of. Because in my view, in this new book, James, the Brother of Jesus, some of these characters move around something like a shell game. And you have to be very careful which character you're talking about, which character is historical, and which character may not be as historical as the other, and in some cases may even be overwritten over something more embarrassing. Let me explain what I mean. By the way, if you have any questions, we're going to have a long, hopefully, question and answer period at the end, and I'll pick up anything you want me to address regarding this when I'm finished with these introductory remarks. But let me give you an example. The Pseudo-Clementine recognitions, called pseudo by Orthodox authorities from around the 3rd or 4th century onwards, but no more pseudo, really, than any of the other books we have. Pseudo simply means it was written in the name of Clement. Well, we have books written in the name of Mark, written in the name of Matthew, and so on and so forth, and we're not sure of those authorships either or what they're saying. So the Pseudo-Clementines are only pseudo insofar as the ideas in them are somewhat antithetical to the established credo of the time. But in any case, in those Pseudo-Clementines, a romance, something like Acts, Pseudo-Clementines are like an anti-Acts. An Acts from the perspective of what we call Jewish Christianity. I think it's a poor term, but it means a philo-Jewish form of Christianity instead of a somewhat, many people would argue about this, and I'm sure some of you will argue with me about this too. Somewhat anti-Semitic view, anti-Semitic type of Christianity. I say that because, you know, Paul in Thessalonians, whether you like it or not, said in some sense that the Jews are the enemies of the whole human race. And they killed all of the prophets. And they killed the latest ones too. That, by the way, credo was picked up in the Quran too, and is repeated there by Muhammad to deleterious effects that we all witness worldwide. But you see, that would be an example of what I would consider anti-Semitism. I don't think that the Jews are the enemies of the whole human race, and frankly, I don't think they killed all of the prophets either. And you can go back on that one. They didn't kill Moses. They didn't kill Aaron. They complained against them. They didn't kill Nathan. They didn't kill Isaiah. They didn't kill Jeremiah. They might have had trouble with him. They didn't kill Ezekiel. They didn't kill Amos. They didn't kill Micah, etc., 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 etc. They didn't kill any prophets except perhaps Zechariah which is an unclear case. There were no prophets killed at all. They didn't like some of them, but they didn't kill any. That is part of the polemics of our time. The idea that they killed prophets has to do with the John the Baptist and Jesus matter. It has nothing to do with the previous time. So you see, those are not accurate statements, and they do tend to make people hostile, to put it in a mild way. Anyway, these pseudo-Clementines, which are rather philo-Semitic, not anti-Semitic, acts, these pseudo-Clementines have an attack by Paul on James in the temple. The Recognitions, anyway, does. An attack by Paul on James in the temple. Now, if you line the pseudo-Clementine Recognitions up with the book of Acts, you will find that this takes place exactly where the attack by the Jews on Stephen occurs. Now, I'm not the first person who said this. Hans Joachim Scheps, back in the 40s, a German-Swedish scholar who had to flee Germany during the Holocaust period and went to Sweden and then came back, he said this. He said Stephen was an overwrite for James, and for the attack on James by Paul. He said that first. I'm not the first to have said that. I didn't understand what he meant at that time, but I believe now, after much study, he's correct. You'll say, I'll try to get at the end, why were these overwrites? Why did these overwrites occur? And if it's not satisfactory to you, and by the way, by going into these overwrites, or some would say rewrites, I like the word overwrite better, by going into them, we can tease James out of the literature. We can find James, because whatever you say, we'll see James is an historical character, and some of these other people, in fact, are ahistorical characters. That's why we have this 1,000-page book. People said, my God, how could you write 1,000 pages about James? Well, look at the book, and you'll see how we could write 1,000 pages about James. Some of it is repetitious, because I feel that since the reader is going through wholly new material and stepping in what, in fact, are like minefields, a little repetition to remind the reader of where he or she is at and what he or she may be forgotten about very abstruse historical characters is in order. If you look at the attack on Stephen in the book of Acts, and you compare it with the materials I give you in James, the brother of Jesus, you'll find that